Hey, tough and the out of this world story from Street Travel. There are ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back in Street Travel. I am your host Manir.
I, 29 female, am married to my husband, 32 male. He has a daughter from a previous relationship, 12 female, who takes part in competitive fencing. I have a good relationship with her and we're friendly. She lives with her mom, but I see her whenever she stays with us and I've hung out with her plenty. She has a competition on Thursday and my husband is flying down to see her tomorrow to spend a few days with her before the competition and to see the competition. Normally I wouldn't have an issue with this, but I'm 39 weeks pregnant with her first child. I could go at any moment and I have no family at all. I've asked him not to go and suggested we send her a gift down instead. He is insisting he has to go and that I'll be fine. He has even suggested that my best friend stay with me while he is gone just to be safe. I normally wouldn't mind him going for this and would even encourage it, but I'm scared and I want him with me right now. He feels she will be too upset if he misses it, and he has to work hard to keep his relationship with her given the fact that he's separated from her mother and having a kid with me. I feel awful for even asking him not to go and incredibly selfish as yes, his daughter is important and I'd never want to get in the way of their relationship, that I'm just terrified of going into labor when he's not there. He has made it clear that he is going to go no matter what and is implying I am being unreasonable to ask him to do otherwise. I don't know, perhaps I'm being selfish. Edit. Information has come up in the comments that should have been in the post. Part of the reason why I'm so scared is that I'm unlikely to last the week, have been having a hard time with a pregnancy, and I'm classed as high risk due to being diabetic. He is also flying out tomorrow and returning Friday evening. Edit 2. Also yes, for those wondering, I'm set to be induced due to being diabetic. It's going to happen on Saturday, which is why he's coming back on Friday. But I don't think I'll last that long. Now for the top of comments before reading the update. Not a whole. I've done what you're going through. My husband missed her first birth, and with the second due any week now, current induction set to 39 weeks, and I'm 36. My husband is planning to go to California for work, saying he can't miss it because he's part of a race team and it's his dream job. I made plans with my best friend to come get me, and what would happen at the hospital. I also set her as my only emergency contact for various reasons in a few years. If he misses this, you're just going to think he suffers, as well as uncaring, and unfortunately resentment will probably build if he chose to stay with him. Not to a whole. I'm not sure why he doesn't understand your concerns. There should be no problem missing one competition of his daughter's to stay home and keep you company and help to keep you calm. I'm sure even his daughter would understand. Labor and delivery will only get worse if you are more stressed. It is encouraged to stay as stress-free as possible. He also needs to understand that as a woman about to have a child, a friend is no comparison to having your significant other around. And I would show him all the comments and hopefully he will get it and step up as he should. I wish you all the best in your delivery and welcoming your first child. So very exciting. I feel for your husband, but you're not the whole. His daughter that is here in his eyes needs him, but it sounds like he could try to watch a live stream of her competition, and then maybe fly to him right afterwards to spend time with you guys, and maybe even be around for the birth of a new baby. You are high risk and about to pop. I'd be very unhappy if my significant other left me to be so close to the end. Your husband knows ±2 weeks from the magical 40-week mark, right? You need to have your friend stay with you the entire time he is gone. Go over your birth plan with her and sign a formal temporary medical power of attorney with her. Hospital can give you one. In advance for the window he's gone for if things go wrong, since you are high risk. By the way, my husband was also gone during my 38th week, a quick plane flight away, and missed our child's birth. I was not high risk, but still not the whole. Now for the update. My doctor ended up deciding I needed an emergency C-section on Wednesday. My best friend is an absolute saint and went with me to the hospital. She wasn't allowed in the room, so spent that entire time trying to get in touch with my husband. We only managed to get in contact with him after our daughter was born. Once he knew that she and I were healthy and fine, he didn't want to fly back. He said we were fine now and the competition still hadn't happened, so there was no point in upsetting his daughter and he'd be flying back on Friday anyway. I was rather worn out and numb at this point, so didn't argue, though my friend called him every swear word she could think of. What hurt the most, though, is he didn't ask for a single picture of her daughter or to Zoom to see her. On Friday morning, he told me he'd be missing his flight back as he felt under the weather and he didn't want to risk it being COVID and bringing it back. I admit this kind of broke me a little, and when I asked him if he didn't want to come home, he told me I was being ridiculous. At this point I had enough, and I told him to come back whenever he felt like it, but I'd be staying with my friend with the baby when I get out of the hospital as I needed time to think about some things. She had been trying to get me to come stay with her anyway, so I knew it'd be fine with her. He simply told me that was fine and to come back when I'd stop my hissy fit. I'm done. Not once has he asked to see our daughter or even showed concern for either of us following the emergency C-section. I grew up in care. A mother alone is better than no one, and I know that firsthand I'm not going to try and make things work just for her sake. My best friend and her parents are currently at my home getting all my things and the baby things to move them to my friend's home. I've also decided on the baby's name. I wanted to name her Violet, initially after my best friend Roman 6. My husband shot that name down immediately when we knew I was having a girl, as he felt it was an old lady's name. But honestly, I couldn't have done any of this without her. So yeah, that is where I'm at right now. In a whole lot of pain emotionally and physically, but I have my little girl in my arms. I'll likely be talking to some lawyers soon to ask what to do going forward. Thank you again, everyone. You've all helped a great deal. Story 2. In my day, hole for telling off my mother-in-law for insisting my daughter doesn't have a real vagina. My 4.5-year-old daughter has a stomach bug and has been having some diarrhea. My wife needed to take her son to an appointment, and I needed to do WFH today, so my mother-in-law came to watch after our daughter. My daughter needed to use the bathroom, and I was going to excuse myself from my online meeting, but my mother-in-law said she had it. A bit later my daughter came up to me and asked me to wipe her. I said to her, "Didn't Grandma help you? She knows how to wipe, but having diarrhea, we're helping her." She said, "Yes, but Grandma wiped wrong." She said Grandma wiped in instead of out. We've taught her to wipe out instead of in. I excused myself from my meeting to help my daughter wipe correctly. I went to find my mother-in-law in the kitchen and asked her daughter says, "You wiped in instead of out." She said, "Yes, I wiped her, but you think there's a better way?" I told her it's not healthy to wipe into the vagina, you need to wipe out. She said, "You have a vagina?" I said, "No, but I have a daughter, and I won't let her get an infection by wiping poop into her vagina." She said, "Daughter doesn't have a real vagina yet. There's no chance of infecting anything." I said, "What? Of course she has a real vagina. She's a female." She said, "Girls don't have a real vagina until they're teenagers, and that there's no chance of any infection because their vagina doesn't actually develop until they're a teenager." I was dumbfounded, and then I got angry. I said to her, "You're a woman, and you raised 3 daughters, I'm married to one, and you can't possibly be this stupid." She told me I'm out of line and said if I can't appreciate her help then she's leaving. I told her I'm perfectly, in fact definitely more capable than her for caring for my daughter, and that she's welcome to get out. She did leave, and about 10 minutes later my wife called me and said her mom was furious with me and said I was terrible to her and made her leave without any reason. After explaining, my wife is on my side. Am I the a-hole for defending my daughter's real vagina? Now for the advices. Not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law is profoundly stupid. Not for not knowing how to wipe, but for not realizing that 4-year-old girls have fully formed genitals. God knows what other pearls of wisdom she has in her brain. Could your mother-in-law be suffering from some sort of illness like dementia or something along those lines? This seems very odd. Not really true. That seems to be a generational family cultural thing. Some people refuse to believe that genitalia for children. They seriously think that mentioning it before puberty is wrong, and you will go to H+LL. At this point, grandmas were Gen Zers. I promise you, Gen X learned about anatomy and wiping. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that his sister needs to be clean for at least a year before she is allowed in our house? My husband has a sister that has been in and out of treatments for addictions for years. The family enabled her, and so does my husband. She stayed over once, and the next morning stuff was missing. I've met her when she was clean before for a few months and let her meet the kids. She was in their lives for a few months and then relapsed. I had to explain to my kids why their aunt was not going to be around. The longest she's been clean is 7 months. To be honest, I'm tired of letting her back in, and then she screwed up. She's been clean for 2 months now, and my husband wants her to stay at the house and meet the boys again. I told my husband that I won't let her back in this house until she is clean for a year, or come back into the kids' lives until that time. This started an argument. He left to cool off, and his family called me a jerk. Now for the top of advices, not the a-hole. You are setting boundaries to make sure your family does not fall down the slippery road of codependency. It's real tough love, but it's necessary, especially with your kids in the mix. You need to protect their mental well-being at all costs. Trust me, childhood codependency can have a very lasting effects that are difficult to deal with at an older age. I completely agree with this. If Op's husband does not see why a boundary has to be made, he has to know the risks and consequences of that tolerance. Unfortunately, husband probably doesn't even see it because he's been raised in a family culture of don't rock the boat, and it's seriously hard to not only see how traumatic that culture is but then to start changing it. My family has been this way with my aunt, but I gradually began to see through it, and now I just talk to her straight. She was staying with my cousin recently and bullying my cousin's daughter. I texted my little cousin and told her she doesn't have to accept how her grandma treats her, and it's okay to stand up for herself. My sister told me later that when she saw my text come through, her first reaction was on no, she is going to tell me to suck it up. That's how insidious it is, generation after generation.